Hail, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are discussing a video on finance magic. We are taking a brief look at this particular topic. This video is likely not going to be very long, but I just felt that considering some recent events in my life, that the topic of finance magic, abundance magic, fortune magic, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it, deserved some due attention. Part of the reason for that is, of course, that for many people who start off with magic, who start dabbling in the occult, who start dabbling with spells, finance magic is probably one of the very first things that they are going to encounter, and it's probably one of the very first things, probably alongside perhaps love spells and maybe even curses, one of the first things that they are going to likely be addressing and or working with. Because let's face it, who does not like having money to spend? So in this video, I'm going to be giving you some very basic tips, some very basic, some basic suggestions, some basic herbs to use in your ritual, some basic colors that you can use in terms of candles, in terms of, whatever other objects and artifacts you choose to utilize in these rituals that you might be wanting to perform in terms of expanding your finances, building further upon your monetary wealth, etc. So I suggest that we begin. So what is money magic? Money magic is probably, like I said, one of the most well-known branches of magic, or types of magic, I should say. And it is, simply put, magic, like every other ritual is in that sense. You do a ritual, you put out intent, you harness that, you send it out. And this is, of course, specifically done to, draw abundance, to draw money into your life, to draw wealth into your life, to increase your fortune, to increase your luck, perhaps, to maybe land yourself a good job that you are looking for, or maybe just a job in general if you are in desperate need of one, to help you advance your career, you name it. So, the way that you can utilize this actually varies. One person may prefer to do a job spell, to land themselves a job, because they may think that it is more of a concrete, reliable form of income. Another person may want to specifically see a certain amount of money because, I don't know, they need their bills paid or some such thing within a certain amount of time. And then may do a spell to, gather that amount through some means, in some way, shape, or form, through this magic. Another person may just want to increase their general, luck, their general income, their general well-being in the financial monetary sense. In that case, a person would do a general abundance spell, perhaps, and they may see throughout all areas of their life, they may see a trickling in of abundance. Of, you may get a raise, or you may get a bonus on your next paycheck for whatever reason. You may, find money on the street that increases your finances. You may get a tax break, or you may get nice tax returns, or any such thing that could boost your finances in various different areas. So a general abundance or a general finance spell will usually disperse itself over your life in a manner that befits the energetic patterns, opportunities, and limitations and blockages around you. That is to say, it will automatically seek out the avenues, if you do not program it specifically with a specific intent, to seek out the most feasible opportunities and openings in order to exploit, and in order to gain financially or monetarily from this. So another thing that I would like to add here is that many people are not aware of this, of course, because they think, oh, I do a spell, Why is it not working? Well, one of the things that I can tell you, of course, and this is really just Magic 100, Magic 101, if you don't believe that it works, your intent is lacking, your energy that you're putting out is not going to flow properly. It may be that even though your intent at the time that you cast your magic was right, it may simply be that you afterwards find yourself just obstructing the magic by constantly thinking about it. Is this going to work? Is this going to work? Is this going to work? That is not going to help you. So I understand that when a person does finance magic, that they are likely in some way, shape, or form in need of money in a relatively short time span in many cases. So what this means, of course, is that you need to train yourself, is that you need to condition yourself to not worry about this. And this is very hard. I know this from experience, absolutely. I know that this is a very hard thing to do, to just completely convince yourself, this is going to work out in my favor and this is going to be perfectly fine. Oh, no, it is fine at present already. I already have the money. It just needs to find its way to me. And that is basically the mindset that you need to adopt. You need to basically say, okay, I already have the money and it's going to come to me in some way, shape, or form in whatever manner I programmed the spell, if you programmed it in a specific manner, to find its way to you. Now, there may be other factors at work that I unfortunately do not hear many other practitioners talk about, and I do think that it needs to be addressed. Because out of course, many kinds of spells, finance spells are notoriously difficult to effectively pull off for many people, is my understanding. And this may be for a variety of reasons, reasons that I will roughly go over, or at least somewhat generally brush over here to give you an idea of what to look for outside of your own personal intent and willpower. Because it is, of course, not always your fault. The world does not just revolve around you. There are other factors at play, other players in the game. And the thing that I want to outline here is that think of it this way. When you put out a money spell, and the rest of the people around you are also in need of money. The economy is basically built on, supply, demand, etc., etc. That is basic, economics. So what happens is that any given time on an energetic level, we're speaking on an energetic level here, at any given time, there is a pool of people who is needing and or wanting the money that you are also after in some way, shape, or form, whether that is a job, whether that is, I don't know, winning the lottery. You and millions of other people are buying similar lottery tickets in hopes of winning that grand prize. So there are so many people that are vying for the same pool of money or the same kind of income or what have you. So you need to understand that on an energetic level, all these people are vying with each other for control, for gaining this specific piece of energy, which in the physical translates in this case to monetary wealth. So what that means is that everybody is putting their intent out. Everybody is hoping, okay, I'm going to get this job. I'm going to get this, this money. I'm going to have this opportunity, that inheritance, yada, 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 etc., etc. So what this creates is, of course, a massive free-for-all fight, basically, if you will, on an energetic level that, uh, you know, sometimes it could be called luck on who ends up winning, quote unquote, the money or the energy related to that money in that sense. Now, keep in mind that when you are a magician and you cast a spell, you obviously understand how to manipulate energy, you understand how to influence it, you understand how to draw it to you, and you understand how to manipulate, perhaps, if you are so inclined, others in order to make sure that they don't get that energy or that wealth, or etc. So what that means is that you as a magician, of course, have a massive advantage. I mean, if you look online, if you look on occult forums, there are plenty of people who have made deals with goetic beings, with deities, who did finance spells. And a lot of the time, of course, these things work. I have seen it work. I've talked about this repeatedly in various different videos that I have with both deities who I work with to increase my finances to, whom I have made contracts with to that end. And of course, also about, my own personal magic that I have done that has yielded very, abundant fruits in that sense. So it needs to be understood that you as a magician have a very distinct advantage, but that doesn't mean that on the spiritual, because we have discussed the physical portion of it, there are all these people who are vying for sources of income in some way, shape, or form. That is one half of the equation. The other half of the equation is that in the spiritual, there are, of course, your allies, if you have any, and your enemies, if you have any. Now, this could be, pissed off attachments that you have from previous lives who may try to hinder your finances. It may be a contract that you made in the past that you still have active that is hindering your finances. You may be devoted to a certain deity, such as, for example, Yahweh, if you were a priest or some other clergy member of Yahweh, because, you're essentially signing away your entire life to the church, and if that contract is still active in some way, shape, or form, you are, from a spiritual, energetic perspective, kept poor. And this is something that I have recently also found out with my own issues from past life things with this particular deity. Now, this, of course, does depend a bit on the different sect or denomination that you are a part of. Some of them are more strict on this than others, but it is absolutely worth looking into. Another thing is that you may have just pissed off a particular spirit or a particular deity who doesn't like you for whatever reason, and this can be in this life, or it can be that you did that in the past life, and they may be out for you to just make your life as miserable as possible. So in that case, I would recommend that you absolutely, if you find for whatever reason, and you seem to be doing everything right in terms of your finances, in your finance spells, excuse me, in terms of your abundance magic, you seem to be doing everything right, your intent is right, you don't worry about it, do not immediately assume that your magic doesn't work. There may be other factors in the spiritual, or maybe even in the physical, because sometimes money may not be available, I suppose, that is possible. I mean, if you ask me, money is usually obtainable in some way, shape, or form in the physical if you really, really want it. Um, However, in the spiritual, there might be some very significant blockages that you may be facing, and I would absolutely recommend before you entirely give up that you look into this, that you look to your past life contracts, that you look to your attachments, that you look to energetic patterns around you. Do I have a curse on me? Do I have a familial curse on me? Is there an ancestor that is in some way, shape, or form corrupted? Who may be, fucking up the bloodline, who may in some way, shape, or form be tampering with things. Uh, is there a deity that I have a devotion to that requires me to live an ascetic lifestyle? Uh, so on and so forth. And even, if you work magic, if you are, for example, were at one point in this lifetime a devout Christian, and you start working with the occult, Yahweh is going to get pissed off because he doesn't like people who practice magic. It's in the Bible. So that is, and of course, one example. There are other people who don't like, people empowering themselves, of course, but this is probably in the Western world going to be the most famous example, because thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, etc., etc. And that is, of course, what we have historically seen, witches being burned at the stake, etc., etc. So practicing magic to certain deities is a offense because it is a threat to their power, it is a threat to their influence, it is a threat to their, to their monopoly on energy and influence in that particular sphere that they, in their mind, hold. So do keep that in mind. And now that we have discussed the negative side of the spiritual issues that we may be facing when we are dealing with finance magic, before I outline, some basic materials, colors, etc., that you could use for a basic finance ritual, I will first outline that you can, of course, as I have previously discussed in my videos, make a contract with a deity or some other being, spirit, entity, in order to help you gain finances, and this is certainly possible. I would absolutely recommend, however, that you do some research into this. Who vibrates well with your being? Do you have your own, pantheon that you are committed to in some way, shape, or form, or are you like me, an eclectic individual, perhaps with, and like in my case, a focus on a particular pantheon? And in that case, you can contact that particular pantheon or deities in that pantheon that may preside over finances. So to cite some examples of these deities that you could, among others, consult for this. For example, as I have made videos about these deities in the past, Njord or Frey in the Germanic Norse pantheon, Inari Okami in the Japanese Shinto pantheon, the Lord Kaishin in the Chinese pantheon, Minerva from the Roman pantheon, Hermes from the Greek pantheon, the goddess Aye from the Yoruba pantheon in Africa. And keep in mind, of course, Africa is a huge continent, so there are different pantheons in Africa. The Yoruba are just one of these pantheons. So if you are, of African descent, you may want to look into the specific region in Africa where your ancestry is actually from, and you may want to look into the pantheon that, resides in that particular area of the world. And alternatively, one could look to various goetic beings from the Ars Goetia and the Lesser Keys of Solomon in order to, find a suitable deity. And there are plenty out of the 72 quote-unquote demons that are mentioned in the Ars Goetia. And again, of course, the term demon, I really don't think that most beings in the Ars Goetia are demons. That is, of course, a Christianization. I mean, I've started recently to dig into goetic beings and have been chatting with a few of them, and really most of these beings do not in any way, shape, or form strike me as what I would call demonic. So I mean, as always, be careful who you talk to, be careful what you promise them, be careful what you sign away in return for what, But really, I think this whole shtick of them being quote unquote demons in that sense is a little exaggerated. I really don't feel that from the ones that I've spoken to, at least. But, it might be worth looking into at a later date. I did mention in my last video that I would be making a video on Agaris, and I will likely be doing that very soon. However, I have some other things occupying my mind. This video is a brief upload. I mean, it's not going to be very long by my standards, at least. For you to maybe satiate your appetite for magical spiritual content, I guess, which is part of the reason that I'm making this. But I will absolutely be getting into some videos on some goetic beings in the very near future, among which Agaris, or Lord Agaris, I should say. So with that out of the way, let me give you some basic hints, tips, and tools for casting a standard basic finance spell, which you can touch up in any way that you really like. So one of the things that I would recommend if you like working with candles is that you use green and yellow candles, or yellow candles, I should say. Green is, of course, the most common finance spell color because it represents abundance, wealth, bounty, finances, etc., etc. It is also, an earthy color, and earth is associated with physical wealth and, well-being. So yellow candles could be used to represent happiness. I mean, having enough money to eat, having enough money to do what you want to do, what you like out of life, is of course going to contribute to your happiness. But not only that, yellow is a color that we often associate with gold. In fact, if you can't find an actual gold colored candle, yellow is often a suitable substitute for it. So in that sense, you could use the yellow as a placeholder for a golden candle and have it represent gold. And gold is, in human society, a very valuable metal. So that is another thing that you could use to symbolize wealth and abundance in that sense. And green, of course, is the color of the dollar bill if you are a resident of the United States. So that may be an added incentive to use that color. So use incense that is, associated with attracting wealth, with attracting money, fortune, finances, the opening of roads, maybe even healing or harmony incense if you suspect that there is some sort of like financial discrepancy or damage to your to your financial energy is what I would call it, for lack of a better word. Um, and in terms of herbs, you can use things like thyme, orange peel, alfalfa. These are all relatively easy to come by herbs, and that is why I am listing them, because I want you to basically be able to create this with things that you could get from anywhere, whether it be from Amazon or from your own kitchen, etc. So, a quick Google search will yield a wide variety of herbs that you can use in a magical ritual dedicated to gaining finances. And if you, like me, use runes, you should be using runes like Fehu, Gebo, Burkano, Lagus, Ophila, or their younger and or Anglo-Saxon Fufark and Fufork, respectively, counterpart, of course. So if you work with, alchemical symbols, utilize the symbol for earth, like I mentioned earlier, because earth has a strong connection to financial wealth and well-being. Use the alchemical symbols for gold, for silver, for several other alchemical symbols that are associated with bringing things to you, multiplying things, etc., etc. So that is a very basic shopping list that I will give you in order to facilitate a basic finance ritual. And again, you can call on finance deities, you can make contracts with them, you can make, you can ask for a familiar spirit that can perpetually assist you with drawing in finances, that can maybe even help you land jobs, that can do a wide variety of things, that can help you attract luck, fortune, you name it. So, I mean, really, the possibility with magic and finances, they are nigh endless. I would not say endless, of course, but if you play your cards right, if you can work around your problems, as with everything, both spiritually and physically, magic can do a great deal in order to, facilitate a massive influx of income. And the last thing that I, of course, do want to give you is that magic does require a vehicle for your finance magic to work. If you sit at home, you are unemployed, you do not own any sort of like online store, you do not own any sort of like, I don't know, divination business, or have a divination profile somewhere, or, any sort of other kind of income that would be considered unorthodox compared to a 9-to-5 office job, what have you. You need a vehicle in some way, shape, or form to facilitate the magic. That is the one requirement that you absolutely, without fail, need to have. So you need to have an avenue through which the deity, the magic, the spirit, whatever, can facilitate income for you and on your behalf. And that also doesn't mean, of course, that you, because you made the contract or that you cast a spell, that you need to stop working. You need to keep putting in your work. The magic is there to facilitate your income and to make it much easier to draw things in. And that is what I have to say on this particular topic. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hail!